Welcome to The Dirt on Organic Farming, a podcast from OATS, the Organic Agronomy Training Service. This season, we are answering all those burning questions we know you have about crop insurance for organic farmers. Yes, we know it's a podcast about crop insurance, but we're going to keep these episodes short, lively, and accessible. Heck, you might even enjoy listening. I'm Nate Powell-Palm.
And I'm Mallory Krieger.
And we're the hosts of The Dirt on Organic Farming.
In this episode, how do I sign up for a crop insurance policy? In this series, we have talked about some of the crop insurance tools and benefits for organic farmers, such as contract pricing, written agreements, and whole farm revenue protection. We've also talked about the obstacles they face with crop insurance and have heard from people trying to change that. And now, this is our last episode. So how are we going to wrap this up, Nate?
You know, Mallory, can I tell you a secret?
Mm-hmm.
I love crop insurance. I mean, what a cool system that we can help take an inherently risky business and make it a little less risky through policy. And I think that there are probably so many of our listeners who never thought they were going to learn this much about crop insurance. But I'm really grateful everyone stuck with us through these last 8 episodes. For our final episode, I thought we'd talk about how to actually go about finding a crop insurance agent and what getting crop insurance looks like to really ground truth this topic that can sometimes be a little hard to access for people. So of course, to bring us home, I called up the one and only Megan Vaith for Finding a Crop Insurance Agent 101. I started off by asking Megan for a refresher on what a crop insurance agent is.
A crop insurance agent, I would say, is an intermediary between the farmer and the crop insurance company, the AIP. Farmers always communicate with their agents until they have a claim, in which they'll work with the approved insurance provider's crop adjuster in order to complete the documents to turn in the claim in order to get paid in the end.
And we've had some people weigh in on this, but I was wondering about Megan's perspective on whether it's necessary for farmers to work with an organic specific agent.
I wouldn't say that farmers absolutely have to work with an organic specific agent, but I would say that there are benefits in doing so. A lot of crop insurance agencies have 1 or 2 organic farmers on their books, and since these farmers are not the bread and butter of the business, they're often not researching the ins and outs of the options for these farmers. So I would say that there are some agents out there that do an outstanding job to make sure that each of their farmers that they insure have the coverage that is best for them, and they know all about contract pricing and written agreements and everything else that's important in organics, but that is sometimes hard to find. So my suggestion would be to make sure that you're working with an agent that understands the differences in coverage and is willing to go to bat for you for better coverage through written agreements. So no, it is not absolutely necessary to work with an organic specific agent, but I would say that there's a lot of benefits in doing so.
I also asked Megan if she could give me a broad outline of what the schedule and deadlines look like for crop insurance.
Crop insurance is often talked about in a cycle because it's a continuous policy until it is canceled. So the first step within this cycle is sales closing, which is where a farmer needs to select the crops that he's going to insure, along with the coverage levels that he's going to insure those crops at. Most crops in the crop insurance program have coverage options from 50% all the way up to 85%. So there's quite a bit of options that a farmer can choose from. And of course, they all have different price points that come with it. And so a lot of times that decision is made at sales closing, which is most often March 15th for any spring crops. And then the other main deadlines or main dates or things to be aware of for farmers or ag professionals as you go through the year is acreage reporting, which is where a farmer reports the crops that he's planted to each field, along with the day in which he planted them, and then production reporting, where he lists how many bushels he received off of each field. And this process is also when you calculate whether he has triggered a loss for the year and then go through the claim process there.
I think that when taking on a new system, it's definitely helpful to have a really clear understanding of what the schedule looks like. I'm wondering, did Megan mention any extra dates for organic farmers?
As the queen of clarity, yes, she did.
Organic farmers do have to supply extra documents, which of course means extra deadlines for organic farmers. The main ones are going to be submitting the certificate and the crop contracts. Ideally, both of these will be done at the same time when the farmer is reporting his acres for the year for the acreage reporting process. However, since COVID, the risk management agency offered a little bit of an exception as far as the certificate comes. And so that organic certificate doesn't actually have to be submitted at acreage reporting time, but the farmer will have to submit some sort of documentation proving that he has applied for certification. And then at the end of the year, if the farmer has a loss, he will need to supply an actual hard copy of that certificate in order to get paid on his crop insurance claim.
Okay, so farmers need their organic certificate and then any contracts they have to secure that pricing. That makes sense. So I know we've talked to a lot of farmers about their experiences with crop insurance, but Nate, knowing you, I'm sure that you got the full scoop on getting started with crop insurance from a farmer.
You mean to tell me, Mallory, that one season and 8 episodes later you figured me out? But yes, I will deliver. I talked to Ben Polczynski, who started farming a few years back in Pennsylvania, about his experience getting crop insurance and finding an agent.
I am Ben with Stonehaven Organics, first generation farmer. This is our second year in organic farming. I had farmed for 18 years prior to this as a dairy farmer, and I'd always had farming in my bones, farming in my blood, I guess would be the thing I would say. I did a organic internship in Texas for a year. That was for meat production, and that's kind of where I got the idea for organics, because before that there had been nothing in my life that had said organic was the way to go. In 2021, we decided just to go for it and got the LLC and got connected with a company called Mad Agriculture, and they're like, hey, this is actually possible. Let's see what your vision is and your goals and everything, business plan, all that. And through them, they're like, hey, you need crop insurance. You don't have anything to really stand on your own, I guess would be the word. We didn't have like a farm or any acreage or anything, and they're like, hey, you need to look at crop insurance. So we're like, where do we go from there? And so that's where we got connected with the organic crop insurance, and it's been a lifesaver ever since then.
So it sounds like Ben was immediately advised to get crop insurance, which made a huge difference for him.
And we'll get more into why he thinks crop insurance is so necessary in just a little bit. But first, I asked Ben how he found his crop insurance agent.
We did a couple different interviews, kind of, I guess you would call them interviews, emails, to several different agencies. None of them were really specific for organic and didn't really specialize in that, I guess you would say. They all said pretty much the same thing. Let me talk to my boss and see if we can, get something figured out here. And they didn't seem like they really knew what they're doing. So then when we got connected with Northbourne Crop Insurance, our agent really knew what she was doing, really explained everything clearly, took the time to really just kind of walk us through as, first generation farmers that had no idea what we were doing, especially on the insurance side of things. Like going into this, I had no idea that crop insurance was really necessary or really a thing. But last year, we went through one of the driest years we've had in the last 10 to 20 years, and it definitely paid to have the advice and guidance of our insurance agent as well as Mad Capital directing us that way to protect our investment.
It didn't take long for crop insurance to come into play for Ben. Last year, his operation suffered a pretty big crop failure, and crop insurance really saved him. I asked Ben to walk me through what filing a claim was like.
Our first year, we did have to claim insurance. We had the drought year. I think we ended up with 6.5 bushels per acre on soybeans, which is pretty depressing when you think about it. That's definitely not what we were going for. And, all the farmers in our area were pretty similar on yields. So the claim process was actually pretty simple. I mean, I just pretty much wrote in and said to my agent, like, hey, we had a bad year. We're going to end up actually having to claim insurance, unfortunately. And she's like, okay, no problem. Let's get your claim in there and figure out final yield amounts. Get your tickets from the elevator. We got that. And then the insurance adjuster came out like a week later. It was like super quick. And he was super friendly. He was in for 20 minutes, half hour. We got all the documentation. I mean, we had everything ready to go, so it wasn't like scrambling around for him. I guess that would be a big thing to just, you want your records pretty straight for anything organic. If you're going to do organic, you need to have your records straight anyhow. But as far as claims go, it's super simple if you have your records straight. So, super simple. I put my claim in. The adjuster came out, and like a couple weeks later, check showed up and we were good to go.
So it sounds like Ben was able to handle all of this very early in his farming career because he had a knowledgeable agent that could advise him through acquiring crop insurance for organics and then making a claim when he had a loss.
That was definitely the key ingredient. And I asked Ben if he had any advice to share about how others could go about finding an agent.
Yeah, I think the big thing is just getting an agent that you're comfortable with, that knows what they're doing and can kind of walk you through the process and keep things moving forward. It's definitely an important piece to the organic puzzle, because organic farming is, I would say, a systematic farming rather than relying on additives. So having insurance in place is kind of just that safeguarding, just in case, you get to the point where you need to claim it.
Gosh, I mean, thinking about season 1, all that we learned together, and now at the end of season 2, there are just so many reasons that I could point to for why organic is a great deal. But safety net is a big one. So I thought, to wrap us up, we could hear some great advice that our interviewees left us with on finding an organic crop insurance agent.
I think one of the first questions that a grower should ask a potential crop insurance agent is if they know what an OSP is. If they don't know what an OSP is, they are not familiar with organic production in the slightest, and you might want to either encourage them to learn more or maybe go find a different agent that already has at least the start to a foundation in organic farming and organic crop insurance.
I would want to know, do you work with any organic or transitioning operators? What are their names and phone numbers? Because I would like to check with them. Like, you want to know what other people's experiences have been so that you can try to have the best experience that you can.
Guarantees, I guess that would be a good question. Like, in organic production, what should I guarantee? Should I go for like 60% or should I go for 80, 85%? And also, one question that I would recommend asking would be, is there like programs in your area or federal programs that can help subsidize some of the payments as well? Because we got pretty good subsidies and were able to afford 80 or 85% last year, and that was big, guaranteed a large amount of our bottom line.
For people starting, I would definitely advise them to get an agent that is well versed in the organic crop insurance. You need an agent that knows all the ins and outs and what different discounts and coverages are available. And that would be something, if we were just starting fresh, I would definitely look for an agent that's got organic experience.
This has been The Dirt on Organic Farming, a podcast by the Organic Agronomy Training Service. OATS provides training to agronomists, advisors, and crop consultants so that farmers will have better access to reliable, science-based advice for their unique farm operation. Special thanks in this episode goes to Megan Vaith, Julia Barton, Eli Dean, and Ben Polczynski. This episode was produced by Michaela Elias. For more information, go to www.organicagronomy.org. OATS is a programmatically independent consortium that is fiscally sponsored by the Organic Trade Association. OATS is supported in part with funding from OTA's membership companies. Season 2 of The Dirt on Organic Farming is made possible by a funding partnership with USDA Risk Management Agency under award number RMA 22CPT0012393. I'm Mallory Krieger.
And I'm Nate Powell-Palm.
Till next time, thanks for listening.